Hey, I want to go over some of the scoring for Battlefield. Right now we are in Battle of Constantinople, which is on the weekends, and this one you get points by owning and occupying buildings, and then also through PvP attacks. So either attacking opponents or opponents attacking you, and you get points from your defense. Okay, so on here, on our map, you can see all those buildings. The blue buildings are the ones that my alliance owns. The red one is what the other alliance owns right now, which they own Constantinople, which is the main building in this battlefield. And the buildings will have different points to them. So if you own a building, meaning you claimed it first, you don't have to keep troops in there. But if you claimed it, you are the owner of the building. And you can check to see who the owner is. So let's come down here and detail. So this player, is the owner of the building. He claimed it first. Over here, detail. Evitz is the owner of the building. He claimed it first. Okay, so even though they don't have troops in that building, they are collecting points for owning it, and they are collecting the max amount of points for owning it, which is a few points per second of ownership. Now, when a player of your team owns a building, you can reinforce it by sending one troop or just more troops, but sending that troop to occupy the building. So let's come down here. We'll come down to Evitz's mine. Okay, and I'll reinforce it, and I'll just send one troop. And so now that I have reinforced it, Evitz is okay. Okay, there we go. My troop is camped in there, and so now I'm collecting points on there as well. And we can check that so we can see the overall scores right there. And if we click the info up here, maybe my little recorder is in the way. There we go. You can scroll through here and it'll tell you the scores that you get. Yeah, see, reinforcing, you get 20% of the scores. Constantinople, you get 80 scores per minute. And Crystal Mine, you get 16 per minute, 16 for the portal. Battlefield, 16, 16, 16. Knight's Hall, you get 32 points. Okay, so Constantinople building, obviously a lot of points there. 80 points per minute of owning it. 20% of that, what's 80 divided by 5? So 16 points per minute of owning it. If you are 16 points per minute if you reinforce it. And then the Knight's Hall, that's 32 points per minute if you own it. And then 20% of that is what, like 6.4. I don't know if it does point decimals. Yeah, it does. Okay, so 6.4 points per minute if you reinforce it. So really, a lot of this game, since we don't really have that many opponents, especially with this one, there's not that many points to get by doing PvP, because let's see, most of the opponents are over here. So we have this guy, which is 2.6 bill, this guy who is 1.9 bill, and there was another guy that I think is already zeroed unless he's healed, but he was only like 200, 300 mil. So, yeah, those billion players were kind of small compared to them, so unless we rally, it would sort of just be losing points to attack them. And so, again, not many points that we're going to get from PvP with this, unless maybe eventually we'll start rallying on them. But if you do want to get more PvP points and you are against bigger opponents, a great way to do that is to wait until they occupy a building and attack their march that's in a building. because that's going to be way less troops than what they have in their castle. And usually it's going to be a targeted type of troop too, so maybe like a ranged march, a ground march, mountain march, siege march that they're going to have in that building. So it's usually a little easier to pick off than just straight up attacking their keep. So again, a lot of the bigger alliances with very big players, they probably get more points doing the PvP, but that's not really the case for us here when we only have 3 opponents and having to be careful about a couple of them. So a lot of our points are going to come from buildings. But going over the score detail, so he owns a lot of buildings. He's also gotten in a couple of attacks to that smaller player, so he has a lot of points. Picnics, he owns he owns Constantinople and the Knights Hall, and he's gotten in a lot of attacks. So he's our main one right now, picking off the bigger players whenever they occupy buildings. So he has a lot of points there. Q has a lot of points, and she's gotten in a couple of attacks. Or Q has a lot of buildings, and she's gotten in a couple of attacks. I've only gotten in 1 attack, but I own a lot of buildings too. So most of my points are from owning buildings. So that's how most of our battles go. You're going to get points just from owning buildings, so you want to always be on top of those and claiming buildings right away. But like I said, if you're in a very large alliance with a lot of large players and large opponents, you're going to be getting more attacks or more points from attacking the other players just because there are more points associated with higher troop levels. Okay, so that is just a rundown on the scoring and points for Battlefield. That's also why when people are playing with me and I see a lot of buildings turn red, I'm usually telling them I'm telling other players, go get the buildings, go get the buildings, go get the buildings, because that's where we're going to be getting a lot of points, especially when we're up against an alliance that has a lot of little players. Really no points that we'll get from attacking them. All the points are in the buildings. So when we are outnumbered, it's very important that all players in our alliance are on top of getting those buildings back right away, because that's where the points are. All right, so that's it. I hope that is helpful for some of the players that want to try out Battlefield with us.